Hey! Hey there! Today I'm gonna show you my updated build for the Thunder Cage. Thunder Cage is a newbie's best friend, I could safely say. Unless of course if you have a weapon select box, new players will always be using this weapon because it's part of the early missions. And though this weapon is extremely good early on, this does not compare in any way to the current meta mobbing weapons like the Malevolent, Restored Relic, and even the Albion Cavalry Gun, especially when the content would become increasingly more difficult. One evidence for that is almost nobody uses this weapon at the higher stages of Void Erosion Purge. But a lot of people have asked a build for this weapon, so here I am. I am making this build with the future weapon buffs and the multi-hit course in mind. But this weapon does not have a good multi-hit stat, so it doesn't get affected with the upcoming multi-hit course. The reason why this weapon is so good for mobbing is because of its unique ability. At max level, almost every time you eliminate an enemy using this weapon, it creates a mini explosion that deals double the amount of damage to the surrounding enemies. The ability inherits from our weak point damage, critical damage, and attribute damage. It does not inherit multi-hit just like any other weapons. The 200% damage cannot be applied to your main target because it only triggers when your main target dies, so we do not add this damage to our calculations. The builds that I will be showing you will deal the highest DPS without sacrificing quality of life. The cores won't even matter much for new players. You can just follow the module builds until you are able to core this weapon. For general build, our aim is to get as much critical hit rate as possible. Although critical damage on core will give you more value in paper, it's only 0.8% more. And if you've watched my weapon builds before, I've mentioned that critical hit rate is always the best choice practically, especially if your weapon relies on critical hits like the Albion Cavalry Gun. For new players, you do not have to switch the attributes because you only have limited amount of resources and early stages are very weak. But as always, switching attributes strong against the enemy will always give you the better value. For critical descendants that buffs the weapon's critical hit rate, things will be different. Instead of critical hit rate, we lean more towards going critical damage. There will be cases where you can switch Insight Focus with Expand Weapon Charge. For example, Haley has the highest critical rate buff, and if we use the critical hit rate on Arcade Tuning, we no longer will need Insight Focus because we will reach 98% critical hit rate on our weapon. Insight Focus will only lose its value for the module slot. Take note, this is only for Haley. For Enzo and Sharon, you need Insight Focus. For Blair and Valby, you need Edging Shot. If you somehow use this weapon for Gley, use the general build but swap magazine count to fire rate on your core. For Serena, this will be the build. Serena buffs general rounds multi-hit damage and chance. Multi-hit trigger and multi-hit on readjustments is a lot more valuable because of this. The devs will be buffing every weapon in the future and the last dagger is the benchmark. I personally think that they should have multiple standards for each weapon type. Because the last dagger is a bossing weapon and Thunder Cage is a mobbing weapon. They should have one for mobbing and one for bossing. But if I were to buff this weapon, I would increase the explosion radius and buff its base stats a little. That's it for the video guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
This is HQ. Troops are on the ground. Transport is en route to standby position. Best of luck, Descendants.
This might tickle. Out of the way. Take this. Out of the way. This might tickle.
Arcane light detected inside a vault structure.
This is good. Low. This might tickle. This might tickle. Take this.